To introduce you to Caitie Skaggs, the founder of Very Good Assistants, who is going to be walking us through staying sane while working remotely.
Excellent. So thank you guys for coming out today. Well, for staying in your houses today. Thank you for staying home today. Please continue to do so as we're getting through a pretty trying time. I'm sure everybody's had their own stressors and interesting situations. We're kind of all in this together. So thanks for coming to listen to me talk. I'm hoping we can have kind of a lighthearted, funny time while we talk about some strategies to stay sane while working remotely. So as Susan mentioned, I'm Caitie Skaggs. I own Very Good Assistants, which is a virtual assistance firm. I help small business owners, entrepreneurs, and teams with getting stuff done that maybe is taking up too much of their time. So if that's something that you need help with, I'm always happy to talk. I'm giving this talk so that we can have some kind of informal dialogue about the new normal. I know everyone here has probably read enough think pieces about working from home that they're ready to throw up and don't care about it. And so I'm trying to keep things a little bit lighter. So as I'm talking, if you guys have any questions or comments, please go ahead and share them in either the chat or the Q&A. At the end of the talk, we'll have time to share strategies, commiserate, what have you. So go ahead and put them in the chat or ask a question, and we will get to them happily at the end. So I'm going to go over how accepting your situation right now can help us move forward. I'll talk about some personal coping strategies, and then I'll talk about some strategies for managing remote teams. Throughout the talk, I'm going to share some of my favorite tools and apps that might be helpful to you in working from home or working anytime. So I encourage you to comment in the chat also with your favorite tools so that we can learn from each other. It's, you know, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And especially folks who are thrown into working remotely when they're not used to it, maybe you're just not up on all the tools yet. So I hope, if nothing else, this serves as a roundup of tools for folks who might need them. So I thought this was a funny meme. Welcome to working from home, where the hours you actually work are made up and your pants don't matter. So part of this time is, I think one of the biggest and useful tools that I can think of is learning acceptance. So once upon a time, I used to be a social worker before I was a virtual assistant. And one of my favorite things to talk about was radical acceptance. So, you know, feeling the thing, as it were. You know, if you're feeling poorly, if you're having an emotion of sadness or anger or whatever, it's important and to honor that feeling and feel it, but not let it take over you. So how we do radical acceptance in this changing work environment is understanding that you're not going to be able to keep up the cadence of work that you're capable of in the office. So it's really just a good idea to not expect that. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. We're conditioned to believe and act as though our value in our work happens at a certain place in a certain time. And it's measured with our presence. So it's really difficult to transition that to home when you're not in your regular place and your time is kind of wonky, and so is everybody else's that you're working with. So it's just going to look different for a while. And I think once we go back to our normal schedule, it's still going to look different, and that's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. I think it's important to recognize in terms of productivity when you're at work, you know, you think being at your office is working and the whole time is productive, but you have to remember when you're at work at your office, if you're a person who works at an office or wherever, you take natural breaks during your workday. You go to the bathroom, you go to the water cooler, people come over to talk to you, and it's not really disruptive to you, but it does take time, and it is time where your brain can be away from whatever task you're doing. Maybe you're a person who goes on sales calls, or runs errands or something like that. Those are times where you're working, but you're not so focused on productivity, if you will. And that's true of people who work from home always anyway. I mean, I work from home or a co-working space, and my day is broken up with breaks, like going on sales calls or like traveling to my co-working space or something like that. So you don't really, I think it's unrealistic to expect that you have to be glued to your workstation at home for 8 hours to be working. So that acceptance piece, it's really, taking every day as it comes and trying to do a little better and feeling a little more comfortable in knowing that it's not going to be the same, and that's okay. That's acceptable. So now I'm going to talk about some personal coping strategies to maintain your health and your well-being. Pretty important stuff. So I know you guys have all heard the setting your schedule. So setting what hours a day you're going to work, and sticking to it. So if your normal is working 9 to 5, then work from 9 to 5. Don't work from 10 to 7:30, or don't work in the middle of the night. That's not sustainable and not super useful to you. It also means setting a time for breaks too. So you need to go to the bathroom, you need to get a snack, you need to get lunch, so on and so forth. If you keep this up and you're sticking to your hours, this signals to other people that are at your house that you're working, and that they maybe shouldn't bother you. I think it's also useful to schedule out your tasks on your calendar or whatever task list that you like to use, so that you can kind of monitor what you're doing. For a lot of people that work in offices or, are not used to working from home, this is already a thing you do. So I think it's also important to note that setting your schedule also means waking up and getting ready and, acting like you're going to work. So it's hard to switch from home mode and hangout mode to work mode when you're not leaving. So do all of the rituals, do all of the things that you normally do. I'm sure you guys have seen that already, keeping up with those rituals. So I liked this meme: working from home, working from the office. So taking breaks, I know this is kind of normal information. So when you're working in an office, you take natural breaks. So go ahead and be good to yourself on that. Make sure you take brain breaks as well as physical breaks. So again, even if you can't physically leave your space or something like that, take time to let your brain come away from whatever task that you're doing. Physical breaks are really important too. Maybe, you can't go to the gym or wherever else, you can't go to Target and get your physical outing, but something's important. Even when you're at work and you don't leave your job, when you don't leave your office, you still have physical breaks. Maybe your walk to the bathroom at work is longer than the walk to the bathroom here at your house. I know that's true for me. So keep that in mind, the physical activity that you normally get, try and keep it up. Oh, my mistake. Creating a protected workspace is really important too. I find that finding a place to get your work done, setting up a desk if you can. I've seen some pretty funny improvised workstations around the internet. People using laundry baskets or bathroom counters or something like that. But creating your protected workspace is signaling to others, again, that you're at work and shouldn't be bothered. And it is also taking you out of your normal relaxed state and getting you, doing that ritual of being in the place you need to be productive. And one of the last ones that I have is reaching out to your network to combat social isolation. So it's really important to talk to other people. These kinds of networking events are great. You know, my church does our, you know, Sunday, like kind of Sunday school groups over Zoom now, which is all kind of its own bag of inconvenience and weirdness, but it's great once you get there and you're like, oh, I haven't seen these people in weeks, and it's great to talk to them. So, you know, reaching out to your work friends or clients even to just, you know, say hello and check in. So now we'll talk about some strategies to guide your productivity. So there's a few things I'm going to talk about in terms of guiding productivity. We're going to talk about time management techniques, assessing your hardware and home internet situation, managing expectations, reaching out to your network, keeping track of your wins, and thinking long-term. So I have a few techniques and tools that I like for time management. Of course, everybody's got their own, but for people who are maybe struggling with keeping enough things to do and staying on task because you're in a different environment, some of these are pretty fun. The Pomodoro technique is I used to use this to study in college. And I think a lot of people, like, it's pretty well liked. A lot of people use it. It's named for the little tomato shaped kitchen timer that the person used to time their work. So you pretty much just choose a task, set the timer for 25 minutes, work on the task. When the time's up, take a 5-minute break. After 4 of those, reward yourself with a longer break. So it keeps you productive, but it gives a finite amount of time that you have to do things, which is useful to a lot of people. The Forest app, or the Chrome extension, I like. It's pretty cute. It lets you, if you're using the Chrome extension, it just kind of stays up there, or you can use the phone app. It lets you plant a seed, and after 30 minutes of not using blacklisted websites or applications, the seed grows into a tree, and you can watch it grow as you're working, and you can share it on your social websites and things like that. So it's kind of a nice little visual way to see your productivity growing if you need to break things up in time blocks to help you take breaks and whatever. The third one I really enjoy. It sounded a little silly to me at first when I tried it or first heard of it, but it's called Focusmate, and it's virtual co-working. So sometimes people are motivated by the presence of other people. And sometimes it's maybe a little too quiet wherever you're working. Like if you're in an office, you hear people coming in and out and talking and pouring coffee and whatever else is going on. So sometimes you miss that just kind of connection. Focusmate's virtual co-working, where you're paired up with a person, you make an appointment. It's kind of like a Zoom meeting. And it's a 50-minute session. You come on and you tell the other person what task it is that you're meaning to do in this period of time, and they tell you, and you be quiet and do it. And they're just kind of on the Zoom meeting with you, doing the things that they're saying they're going to do. And in the chat function, you update them. Okay, I finished this task. I'm going on to the next one. At the end of the session, you recap what you've done together, and that's it. It's really simple. It sounds, like I said, it sounded kind of silly when I found it, but I found that it was really helpful for things that I'd been putting off doing. Like I needed to fix some things on my website, and it's not a thing I'm like super great at or comfortable doing. So I carved out that time to do that. And I actually, like, the thing you put off for 3 months takes you like 12 minutes to do, of course. So Focusmate was pretty cool for that. Definitely I'll use it again. It's free for 3 sessions a week, or you can pay $5 a month. So if you're a person who needs to be around other people, give it a try. We'll talk about, so assessing your hardware and bandwidth needs is pretty important when you're starting to work from home. A lot of people are experiencing technical difficulties as their personal computers and home internet are being put to more use than they might typically be. So especially if you don't have like a company issued hardware and things like that, it might take you some time to find workarounds. So if you're a part of a team, let other people know, like, hey, I'm not used to this. I'm having some trouble. I'm working on it, but just be clear and upfront with people that it might take a second longer than it usually will. You might need to contact your internet service provider to purchase a better plan. I've heard of a couple of people who've had to make improvements that way. Another thing to consider, if other people in your home are using the internet, like your kids might be streaming Netflix videos or playing video games or whatever. Or we've run into the problem of I am on a Zoom call and Hiram is on a Zoom call and our kids are watching TV, and it really kind of slows our internet down. So we might need to, like, we've taken to staggering our meetings and maybe kind of set limits. So if it's not a thing you can change, that might be a good strategy for you. And then I've also had some hardware issues. My other computer is a Chromebook and it's not got a giant CPU. So I can't do a whole lot at once on it. I've learned, like, okay, well, I've got to turn off some of these other apps and close some of these tabs. So you may have to make some workarounds that you're not used to. Let's see, managing expectations. It's important. Oh, this was my home office meme. So setting up your own home office can be, look, I have height adjustable workstation. This actually looks pretty appealing to me. So managing expectations is really important in terms of guiding your own personal productivity. You have to manage your expectations with yourself, but also your clients, your boss, any other stakeholders that you're working with. Be clear on what's expected of you and of each other, and negotiate what you need. So making sure that things that you might have been able to do and accomplish before, they might look a little bit different now, and you may need more support from another person, whether it's your boss or whether it's your client. Just being sure to say, hey, this is what I need to get this done, or maybe we're going to have to kind of sidestep something, or okay. It's also, you can also reach out to your network and other people in similar situations to you, and talk about what's been working for them in terms of, personal techniques or tools that they're using or what have you. That's kind of one of the best ways that I've learned to figure out, what are good tools and techniques for me to use. And then keeping track of your wins is really important. It's really easy to get frustrated with all of the newness of this and the kind of inconvenience and difficulties that you might be having, especially if it's not something you're used to. But keeping track of your wins can help you not get down about, shortcomings that are coming down your way. Really write them down so that you don't forget, and so that you can see what's working. It's not just about, pumping yourself up, but it also can help you track, like, okay, this technique or this tool, excuse me, this is working, this is not. And so the last one I have is think long-term. So think long-term in terms of coming out of this crisis. As much as you're focused on working in this crisis, you need to shift your priorities to actively doing things that are going to help you long-term, so that you've got wind in your sails when this is all over, or when we go back to kind of normal, kind of the way it was. You want to have wind in your sails, and you don't want to come out flat-footed. This might look like setting out a more robust digital marketing campaign, or improving your workflows, automating your operations process. You might, switch tack to researching and prospecting needs if you're not able to do a whole lot of selling right now. So setting yourself up, taking some better steps to be able to come out of the gates running when we can get back to some sort of normal. And have a plan for what you're going to do when this lets up. use this time to really think about how you want your business to be, or how you want, if you're part of a larger organization, how you want you and your team to work after this is over. And you can really like lay the groundwork for that now. Okay, I'm being asked about time management tools. We can get to.
You let me know when you're ready to.
Okay, I think
we'll switch gears. We've got some good chat, so we've got some stuff queued up, ready to talk about.
Okay, I think. Let me see. I think we can wait till the end for that, and I can, because I have another slide with all the tools and things on it. So, so back to kind of thinking for the future. This is really a time to force introspection. So thinking about, take the time to think about how you can improve your process and things like that. If you're a solopreneur or a decision maker for your team, you can really take the time to think about how you can improve your processes. What you do here and now can make a big difference in how you return to work. So how can you improve your workflows? Is there room for automation or consolidation of tasks? You might not have access to the tools that you've always had. So what you're doing now in terms of discovering new tools can translate into what you can do in the future. So the shakeup can kind of be a blessing in disguise for some people. I've heard the, well, now we'll see that meeting can really have just been an email. And like, that's true. You really can do that, kind of lean up your process. So this is really good for that. If you're a decision maker or an entrepreneur. So we're going to shift gears now to talking about managing remote teams. So if you own a business, or if you're in charge of a team, you know that this can really be a struggle. So some things to consider to help make things run more smoothly. Excuse me. So setting clear communication standards and expectations are extremely important, especially in a time where your normal communication is just not available. It's really important to, it's really important to explain and model what you want your team to communicate with one another. So it's not good enough to just say like, I think we should use Slack, or I think we should use, I want you to check in with me every day, thusly. You have to do that with them too. So that's the best way to communicate clearly what your expectations are. So I've got some tools that I like, that I wanted to share, that are pretty easy and pretty standard. I don't think this is new to anybody, but I just wanted to go over them. So keeping up with your tasks and calendars, however you're already doing that, like you should probably keep doing it. And if you're not keeping up with your tasks in a calendar, maybe you should start doing that so that people can see what's going on. It can help maintain your productivity, but also communicate boundaries of time to your team members. So if you're using tools like G Suite or Microsoft Office 365, something like that, where other people can see your calendar, it lets them know like, hey, I am doing something right now, and this is a good thing. And internally, it keeps you on task. I like Slack. It has a free version, or it's $8 per user per month if you want to also use it to make voice and video calls for up to 15 people. Excuse me. I like Slack because it's also really useful to communicate with your clients, contractors, freelancers, and things like that. It's free or cheap. You also should consider, if you're already paying for a suite of products like G Suite or Office 365, like there's already the capability there to do video chat and do, instant messaging type chat too. So make sure if you're already paying for something that you're using it, or you should start using it. I personally like Google Chat or Google Hangouts. It's in G Suite. That's what I use for my business. Like I said, a lot of people are already using and paying for this, so go ahead and get used to using it. Through Google Hangouts, you can chat or do video calls right in your Gmail tab of up to 25 participants. And then there's the Microsoft Teams, which is the Office 365 version. Right now, Office 365 is free to Teams through April 21st because of COVID-19. And after that, it's pretty reasonable. It's $12.50 per user per month. It does require an annual commitment, though. So all of these tools are pretty reasonably priced or free, and I like free. So the next thing I wanted to talk about with managing a remote team is setting clear productivity standards. This might take some time to work out necessarily. I mean, productivity looks different from home. Maybe you might be surprised that it's better. Who knows? But be open with your team and express, that it will take some time and that you know it will and that you're open to working on it. Productive time does not equal time spent at your desk. We're going to have to shift from thinking that time spent at your desk or in your office to looking at it more like tasks completed or using other performance indicators, which is what we really kind of should have been doing all along. So I'll take a page from the Agile ethos and encourage you to start valuing outcomes over processes, because the processes that we normally use probably are out the window right now. So use this time to really think about what productivity actually means for your team in terms of actual things produced, and not necessarily, well, they spent this much time sitting there and working. As a leader, you should make your expectations clear with very clear policies. So that might look like everybody should be available for meetings and calls from 9 to 5, or a developer assigned a project must deliver code ready to be tested in 5 working days. Or if you're going to be short on a deadline, give me 48 hours notice. Also important to note that documentation of productivity standards might take a little extra effort, but it's worth it. And documenting your productivity somehow can help you spot trends and adjust tactics if you need to. So you're probably new to whatever process that you're putting in place. And it would be really useful to be able to evaluate it as you go with actual data instead of just how you feel. Using a good project management or task management tool can really help here. And I'm going to talk about some of those that I like later. Again, they're usually, most of the ones I like are free or pretty cheap. So that can help out. Next, with managing a remote team is to make sure that people have the tools that they need to get the job done. You can only work with what you have. So make sure that your folks are as well supported as they can be. Do they have access to your company's software programs, relevant files, stuff like that? Understanding that we're all in the same boat, and we're all stuck at home, possibly with our children, maybe sharing workspaces with other adults. Your employees might not even have a space of their own. So being understanding that everybody's situation is different. If your employee is expected to work from their own device, so they don't have a company issued device or something like that, understand that there might be some issues of compatibility and capability. So if you can't issue them devices, then you might need to work with them to support them in finding meaningful things for them to do, or troubleshooting issues, finding workarounds and things like that. And then some of the tasks that we do at work might just not be able to be done remotely. And that's a thing that we just might have to accept. We can try our hardest to find workarounds and try our hardest to find other things to do, but in the end, some of that stuff is just necessarily going to fall. It's important to remember that everybody is experiencing this. So giving each other grace is really, really key in this whole situation. So we'll talk about check-ins. So setting aside a regular time for check-ins with each of your team members and the whole team is really important. I sit next to someone in my home office who has daily check-ins with his team, and sometimes it looks a little sillier than other times. Sometimes they might be playing Pictionary over Zoom, maybe. So I've seen his decline of, the first day of Zoom meetings where he's dressed like he is for work and ready to go. And then the 14th day of Zoom meetings where he maybe isn't wearing, maybe he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt. So I can relate to that one. So check-ins, this can be cumbersome, but it really can be key to helping keep your team motivated and engaged in whatever it is that you guys are deciding to do. It might be new territory for a lot of people. So helping them through it and helping them troubleshoot, it can be really key here. I think we've all been getting used to Zoom or GoToMeeting or, Crowdcast or whatever else, what other platforms that people are using. And as McD mentioned earlier, everybody's gotten their, trial by fire Zoom 101 session already. I'm seeing a lot of like ear shattering noises because people don't know the trick about turning your mic off. And I see a lot of weird angles because people have, they're holding their phone down here and you're getting the double chin thing. So it is a thing to get used to. So coaching your team, and people who maybe haven't used those platforms before, and some, really good tips and tricks would be useful. So, encouraging people to use headphones and use the mute button. It's also really helpful to do a roll call to see who's there. Just to make sure, especially if some people are calling in and some people are not on video, just to give them the time, like, hey, I'm here, I'm checking in too. And sometimes because this is a different format than we're used to, it's easy to either be way too short and not have a valuable check-in, or way too long and just not respectful of people's time, especially if if your team's kind of aimless right now because you're not really sure what to do. That can be a real time suck and make people not feel super great about meeting online. So be respectful of people's time, have a clear agenda, and stick to it as well as you can. It's really important to seek the input of team members on what's working and what's not. People need to feel like they can speak candidly, and this is really empowering. So if your communication, if your team members think like, we need to talk more, we need to communicate more, like, be open to hearing that. If they're saying, I don't want to play games on Skype anymore, maybe find a different tack. The bottom line of managing teams remotely is that you have to be open to changing and evolving your remote work plan. Seeking the input of your team members on what's working and what's not is important. Negotiating and communicating expectations clearly and using documentation to measure your productivity and the success of your strategies is really going to be able to help you evolve an actually good and successful plan. You may be surprised that throughout this, you find things that you can take back when you do go back to the office that work really well for your team. Hopefully you'll see some good things coming out of here. So I'm going to shift to my tools and apps roundup. These are some things that I have found that are useful for people who are new to working remotely. Some of them we've already talked about, but I mentioned earlier some project management and task management tools, and I'll kind of go through those now. So Airtable, I like. It's a free database tool, and it's good. It's got good templates. You can use it for project management. There's a whole heck of a lot of stuff you can use it for. If you're a person who likes to fiddle with things and make things customized to you, This is really useful, and it is free. If you're a person who, or a team who maybe isn't super tech savvy or doesn't really understand how databases work, maybe this isn't the tool for you. So if you like highly customizable things, I like that. Trello is pretty great. It's a really widely used app, task management tool. There's a free version, which doesn't have a whole lot of features. The paid version is $12.50 a month. Teamwork is really useful. I like it for project management. It also has a free version, or the base license is $9 a month. I like Teamwork because it has time tracking and invoicing features within it. So if you're concerned about people's time working on tasks, this can help with that. This can help you keep up with that. Or if you're managing contractors or freelancers, this is pretty useful. We talked about Slack, text, voice, video communication tool. It's free, or if you want a little more, if you want to be able to video chat with more users, that one is $8 a month per user, so still pretty cheap. G Suite, again, a lot of people are already paying for this, so if you're needing a voice or video chat function, Google Hangouts is there right in your Gmail tab. You can have a free Gmail address, like anybody can have that, or if your business is already paying for it, you can use that. Office 365, again, Microsoft has this for free until the 21st. And then after that, it starts at $5 per user per month. So pretty cheap. FocusMate was the virtual co-working sessions. The Forest app is seeing a little tree grow as you're working and being productive and not wasting time on social media or Netflix. And then, of course, you guys have experienced all of the video conferencing tools, Skype, Zoom, GoToMeeting. I know there's a heck of a lot more out there too. So if we want to talk about what we like best, that would be cool too. So
I'm looking forward to us talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I would appreciate anybody who we can address questions, share what's working for you. We can commiserate about the whole crap situation.
So I'm going to start promoting people back to being participants, so that panelists, so that you can talk on screen. And I'm going to post the poll results. I'm sorry of those of you who weren't able to see the poll questions. You should be seeing the poll results. So you guys let me know if you are seeing that. And I am going to be promoting you folks to panelists.
We've got a lot of cabin fever. And we're evenly split on too much work and not enough work. I can relate to that. I have like so much work to do right now, but Hiram is here. He's an outside salesperson. So he's like, well, what the heck do I do? Like, there's not a whole, business is not in business right now. So I can relate to that. Ate through all the quarantine snacks. Yep. So I'm gonna scroll back to the tools list because somebody was asking about tools. That way you can see them.
And I'd love to hear if you guys have tools that Caitie didn't mention, but that you're finding value in, especially in the work from home land.
Don't everybody talk at once.
The other thing that we could talk about, Lisa, let me make sure I've promoted Lisa or invited her to promote. Lisa Hurst said that she was having to pivot her business. She runs Improv to Grow, which is a business consultancy that does team building and communications exercises. And it was, Lisa, you'll have to tell us, it all online back in the day, and that she's inventing. And here, you're last on my list. I'm sorry, Lisa. come back. Somehow she was last.
So I all of my offerings are ideal for in person because they're experiential and they're improv exercises that prep you to go on stage, but that help you in your everyday life and work. And fortunately, I've been connected with a group of improvisers around the world, and we've been working on how to format and reformat what we do that would be adaptable to online Zoom, Skype exercises. And as a facilitator, being in the room and getting the nonverbal cues and the verbal, the visual cues is really critical to see what's being taken in and adapted and implemented in a team setting. And so there's a lot of pivoting going on, but not all the exercises are super transferable, but the ones that are can be very powerful and very impactful to the individuals and to the teams. And so it's been fun. I've been on a lot of different meetings this last 2 weeks to see how we can adapt what we do. And I had always thought, well, that's a backup plan, or that's like if we can't do it in person, well, I guess we can do it that way. Now I see it as a whole offering, a whole service that I'm providing. So it's very exciting, and it's a little challenging sometimes on the tech side, but as a facilitator, I still need to facilitate with the groups and wherever they want to go with whatever goals that they have for that time. So yeah, it's been fun and awkward and messy and just really kind of some brilliance that comes out of it too. So yeah, it's interesting to
still
have
human beings, right? It's still human beings interacting.
Yeah, and
I'm
cats
interested.
and dog. It's just you just that, but
I
there's
know we have a couple of teachers on, and I would be interested to hear, like, do you guys, yeah, you need to engage people remotely. Do you have that? Do you have some new tricks up your sleeve these days?
I sure wish I did. Sorry, Lori, go ahead.
I'm wondering if for the therapy sessions or teaching, I made an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of the sessions and what was done, but it looks like maybe the Airtable might be better. I have never heard of that before. Could you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so if you can use Excel, you can use Airtable. That's totally possible. I like it because, well, you're a therapist?
I work both. I teach and I also work with babies if they have a visual impairment.
Okay. Yeah, so you can totally use an Excel spreadsheet. It's almost the same thing for your application, I think, but I do like Airtable. And if you like to be able to, so something that might be useful to you is that you can change the view of it. So if you want to view it as a calendar or a Kanban board, you can do that. So definitely check it out, give it a try. It's a little more visually stimulating than an Excel sheet. So if you're not liking the way it looks, that's enough of a reason to switch for me.
Or if your clients can't see.
My degree, it was in more artsy stuff. And so I hate Excel. I'll use it, but the whole idea of the templates, or I thought, gosh, this has got to be so much more interesting to for working on caseload stuff.
Yeah, it absolutely is. The only thing that I don't know about is the security of it. I don't know what you have to do to be HIPAA compliant. So one caveat for you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Brenda mentioned Voxer in the chat. What's that? Can you tell us about it, Brenda?
Yeah, it's like a walkie-talkie app. So so it's easy to just leave like quick messages and people will get them. It's a free app. And so, you can text, but it's really nice, especially like if you're collaborating with somebody and you just, so y'all can just each, here's this, and then, oh, okay, I saw that and I'll do this and that kind of thing. So I've been using it a lot.
That's neat. I've never heard of that one. That one's pretty cool. And I think another thing to consider when this may be a little more pertinent to me because I'm a freelancer and I have a lot of different clients, but I think it's really important to consider how people prefer to be contacted. And it might be something out, if you're working on a smaller team, especially, it might be something to like get the consensus to see like what other people, how they want to be contacted, how they want to check in. Because sometimes I think like checking email and monitoring email for me is incredibly disruptive. I feel like I constantly have to be looking at it. Well, I don't anymore because I've like freed myself from this, but once upon a time, I felt like I had to constantly be looking at it. And I think someone in the chat said that, you know, worrying about someone sending me an email and not replying in enough time and my employer thinking that I'm doing who knows what. So like thinking about how people like to be contacted and what might, you know, be the most comfortable for them can be something to consider when you're working with your team or, you know, me, I'm working with my clients. So I wouldn't like it if someone emailed me and wanted me to respond to them quickly. Like if they want me to respond to them quickly, maybe they should text me. And I'm okay.
We have to have a whole escalation protocol where it's like you send an email and you wait, and then you send a, you know, a thing in teamwork, and then you wait, and then you chat, and then you wait. McD, you're used to having to do that with me, I'm afraid.
Yeah. No, that's all right. I mean, we adjust.
That's right. One other, any of you use stickies and Sharpies a lot like I do? And Lisa, I think you might be a stickies and Sharpies lady. Mural, if you haven't looked at Mural, it's mural.ly. There's a free version where you can have a bunch of people on the same board and put sticky notes, and then you can move the sticky notes around and organize them. So we've been doing webinars, versions of our in-person stickies and Sharpies. That's right.
You know, I can, so to this, if this is too far of a tangent, I apologize, but the time management piece, you know, I was sitting there listening to what you were saying, Caitie, about, you know, it's forcing you to sit down and focus this and that. And I'm thinking, you know, I don't really need that. I think I naturally just sit down and focus on a job, try to stay focused on the job without letting myself get distracted. Some distractions are warranted, like sights down. Others are, what do you want for lunch? That can wait. But I realized that, so in the beginning, I started way old school. I have this little pad of paper next to me where I basically do my analog time entry. I write down the project I'm working on, the time I'm starting it, and I'm sitting down and I'm working on it. And then when I'm done, I make it a point to scratch the time down. And then I go and I have an online time management, you know, invoicing thing. So I realized that this little pad sheet that I have with me is my focused time checker thing, because it's forcing me, because the way I think about it is, you know, I charge a lot for my time. And when I do that, I want each minute of that time to be spent thinking on the client's behalf. Even a 10, 15-minute phone call from somebody else can throw me 20 minutes, 30 minutes off track. So I've been doing this naturally without realizing that's what it was. So I would second the whatever tool you need to keep you focused on a task. And really the hardest part of all of that is to deflect the distractions. So in my brain right now, I'm Wonder Woman with the bracelets and I'm fighting them off each time. You know what I mean? So I just want to, it's a great piece. It's a key element for me being easily distracted. Hey, shiny Netflix. And a lot of people working from home, I think, are having so many distractions around you already, that if you could focus on that part, it really forces you to be 100% brain CPU cycles spent on the project. So, and I have found that it actually betters my time spent because I'm focused on just the one thing and I can complete it and feel good, wipe my hands, move on to the next thing. So I digress.
Absolutely.
And I killed the conversation. Yes.
No. One of the things I've been enjoying in most of my
All right, everybody
meetings
stop checking your email and let's pay back attention.
is the human connection. I've, Brene Brown, if you're a TED aficionado like I am, she talks about vulnerability and authenticity. And I've been seeing a lot of that in meetings where we'll spend time just talking about how we feel about what's going on.
Absolutely.
It feels, Caitie and I were talking earlier that we're both from hurricane places, grew up in a hurricane place. And hurricane was different from some other natural disasters in that you kind of saw it coming and there was this period of dread or, suspense. And then this one is like a super long ramp up, right? So it's like we're almost having fear fatigue, right?
Yeah.
I think, go ahead, Lisa.
Thinking about that, about hurricanes, because I grew up on the coast and it was, we had that warning, and then it happened. And then like all the fences were down, all the neighbors hung out together. And as soon as those fences started going up again, you didn't see those neighbors again. And I feel like one of the things I've been surprised by is that in the midst of this social, separation, physical separation, I've had a chance to reconnect with people I haven't seen for 20, 30 years. And in a way feel closer in a different way. But this format's really helped that. And I find that fascinating, but it reminded me of the hurricane season of like everybody is really good friends and then the walls go back up again. And that's when, Caitie, as you were talking about beyond this time is like, I'm trying to set up behaviors or some discipline for me to go beyond this time of self-care. I do something self-care every day. I do something around the house every day, maybe 5 minutes, but it's something around the house. Work-wise, I've had this little pattern of like three areas I focus on. I have a list of 3 things, and they may or may not all get done, but I'm just focused on 3 things that I would like to address. And to simplify that has really helped me just take that time out and be present and just be really like, okay, this is all that needs to happen right now. And I need to reach out to somebody, or I need to sit here and be quiet for a little bit, or walk outside for a little bit and just be on purpose, in the midst of this chaos, to be on purpose. So.
Right. I do something similar to that in my, I always joke that my commute to work is I go for a walk. I mean, I work from home, so always and have been. So, but the walk thing, it does what you just said. It forces me into a space. And lately, in the beginning, I used to listen to a lot of music or podcasts, but now I've gone quiet because I like listening to the nature of the neighborhood and the noises and focusing on that, which is a complete escape away from the thing. And speaking to Caitie's point about keeping a regular schedule, that kind of keeps me in rhythm with my day. I've got a wake up thing. I've got to do that, then dive into work. Now I'm in that rhythm. And once I'm done, I can give myself my little commute thing. But each of these chunks have these breaks like Lisa are talking about where I have to have a bit of a pad between some of these things. Like I'll purposely sometimes not schedule back-to-back meetings because I know like even in just 5 minutes, 10 minutes can be just enough to get literally from the physical, get the, out of my seat and stretch and look at my eyeballs staring somewhere else for a few minutes. But I really think Lisa's point about you have to give yourself that space because I tell you what, I have found in this difference of what's happening now, I do a lot more of that than I used to. I think it's because I don't have all these other activities where I get to drive and listen to music and I get a lot of that. Well, all that's gone, all that free, thinking time to myself, like you noted. I think it's really important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're at the top of the hour. I just wanted to weigh in and say, we can stay here and talk for a bit longer. I'm not in any hurry to go, but I just wanted to give you the notice in case you had a 1 o'clock or, you've been sitting too long and you need to get up. But we can stay and chat for a bit longer. I just wanted to thank Caitie for this presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for putting this together. I think it's a
really
big disruption for people. And hope hope the tools were helpful.
Very.
I was really curious about the part that you said about making a plan for after. I think because I have been disrupted so profoundly, right? The business, that I am thinking about what we can do with it. And Lisa, you're saying I'm going to add some virtual options to most of my offerings. And one of the reasons I've been so busy is that I'm helping clients do things like Zoom webinars and pivot their business. And, you know, all of a sudden their online presence is super important, you know, to the bottom line. But I'm curious what everybody else is thinking about. Are you thinking about after the calm down? Are you projecting yourself there, and what kinds of thoughts do you have?
So I'm a teacher, but going from a place where I have so little autonomy and rigid schedules and micromanagement to this space of being able to be creative, where the state testing is not on the table anymore, to where I get to literally do the things that I see are beneficial for children. It's hard to imagine, you know, like what going back into that rigid schedule where I have to wait to take a restroom break, where I get 19 minutes to eat my lunch. This has been so nice, and it makes me feel really like more of a professional, even though I'm in shorts and t-shirts, versus being in my professional space. So it's just been a really interesting to see how other people, you know, like how other professionals are living their lives and the benefits of this and the benefits of the other. So I don't know how I'll go back into it, or if we will even this year, but it's just been very eye-opening for me.
Part of it, or do we have any idea when the end of this is going to be? This is unlike a hurricane, which you knew had a time frame of some sort. This is going to be interesting. How months of this are we going to see? I have no guess.
For sure. And I think when I was thinking about that question of like being prepared, not being caught flat-footed when we go back to, you know, whatever normal might look like, I think that the processes and the things that you're doing right now, like the things that you have to discover to make work right now, can maybe improve our lives after, you know, when we get to the next part. Mm-hmm. I think people are going to be a little more respectful of each other's time, and I hope people will be a little more respectful of like their work-life boundaries. I think that we're having to learn about those kinds of things in a different way that we've never had to do before. So I think maybe that workers are, and I've heard this from a couple of my friends, like people are starting to become aware of their own time more than they were when they were at work. So I think it's going to also maybe create a bit of a cultural shift around work.
Yeah, if we could get rid of what Susan called earlier, butts and seats management, yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Not holding my breath, but it would be great.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if anything, this is showing, hopefully this will show us like people can work remotely or work flexibly and still get the thing, whatever the thing is that they need to get done. You know, I don't have to be under someone's nose and under someone's thumb. In fact, for a lot of people, that is stifling. So maybe it'll work.
Yeah, I was on a call on how to run virtual meetings this week, and these were the options. Like they're really bad, they're boring, they're good, they're okay, or they're better than what was in person. And I'm like, I've never thought about like how could that be better than being in person? But you know, when you think about on one level all the costs, the travel costs and implementing, you know, we got to get the caterer, got to get this, got to get that. You know, one of the things I'm noticing is that I feel like there's like the abundance and the scarcity mindsets right now across the board. It's just what it is. But I feel like once we get back into that new pattern, that new normal of doing business, people are going to be open to different formats, number one, but they're also going to want people who are experts, and I feel like we have this opportunity to really fine tune our skills during this time to be the best in whatever industry we are, and to really fine tune it so that, hey, I stand out differently because of X, Y, and Z. And you know, I just feel like it's an opportunity. I feel like we have this opportunity is in this economic ecosystem timeout to really, we have a choice. We have a choice in how we're going to spend this time. We've always had this time, but now we're being much more intentional on what we do with it. And I think if that's the one thing we take away from it is being much more intentional with our time, that's a win. But I feel like there's a great opportunity in the marketplace to really set up for some really fun opportunities for people to really shine into their purpose. And that's what my hope is. That's what my hope is. And if that sounds Pollyanna or whatever, that's I can't help that. But that's
I like your Pollyanna hood. We've been working a couple of events for TEDx San Antonio, and I was just in WordCamp San Antonio, and because it pivoted to online, two really positive things came out of it. That they were made free, right? The events themselves can be free or very low cost because, like you said, we're not doing catering, we're not having a venue cost, whatever. We have this software cost, but it's, you know, a fraction of what it takes to like put something up at the Majestic or the Empire Theater. And then the other opportunity is that we attracted, so for WordCamp, there was going to be a WordCamp DC at the same day as WordCamp San Antonio. They were too afraid to pivot to an online format, so they just merged in with WordCamp San Antonio. So it was more than twice as big, because not only was it those two cities doing WordCamp, but people all over the world dialed in. Same thing happened with our Creative Morning San Antonio, because they're able to be all virtual. All of a sudden they had folks all over the world, and it was fascinating. What a fascinating time to hear from people in Tokyo or Switzerland or New Zealand, you know, or South Africa. And these people were dialing in and talking to us about what it was like to be quarantined where they were, you know, and what they thought about their leadership. And, you know, so there are several silver linings and so much new opportunity that the bigger the disruption, the more opportunity it creates. Even to the point, Caitie, you were talking earlier, and Lisa, you mentioned you're starting kind of more healthy rituals for yourself. Because we're all disrupted out of normal, might as well put in some good stuff.
Absolutely. Make a new normal for yourself. Like all this, you know, all the time you spend envisioning what would be good for you and what would make your life better. And, you know, all of these things that you might think about when you're so busy doing your normal regular job, like, well, look, now you've got the time to do it. Well, maybe you do. Hopefully you do. I know I'm still super busy, but if you've got the time to shake it up and say, okay, like the things that I'm normally doing, I'm not normally doing now. So like, let's put the things that I want to do, or the things I think will make it better. Like, now's the time.
Yeah.
Things like this.
Yes. I'm looking back in the chat. I wanted to mention a couple more tools that came up. Michelle, you talked about WeTransfer for transferring large files, like a big Zoom webinar recording like we're going to have for this. Apparently there's a free version. I can post Caitie's slides to the different social channels on our website if you guys would be interested in them. I want to see the picture of the ironing board again. It makes me think of the horrible screeching noise my mothers used to make.
Do you want me to share it again?
Mine still makes that noise.
Mine does too.
I kind of like it. It feels like, yep, going to work. Gonna make myself look pretty.
And the person's thing, like the tweet said something like, I have a new standing desk.
Very nice.
That's pretty good. Standing desk, nice.
Well, and then I looked at it and I thought about it. I was like, that would actually work just fine.
It's adjustable, right? I
It
mean,
really
the
is.
height adjustable somewhat.
And that
There it
person
is.
has a like nice view. They've got their extra keyboard. It could be great.
Actually, the glare on that screen would drive me crazy. That's bad ergonomics.
Well, we'll get McD a curtain.
Well,
He
Caitie,
says sitting in a dark room.
put up your
Yeah, if you
your
guys,
contact information just in case people, if you know somebody who needs a virtual assistant, I can give you a warm recommendation.
Good stuff.
She's really been knocking me into efficiency.
thank you. So yeah, if you need help, if you need help strategizing or troubleshooting something that you're working on, I'll be happy to help. And if you need, you know, extra hands getting things done, that's what I do. So shoot me an email, give me a call.
I am being asked if I will share the recording. Yes, I will. Thank you all for joining us. We will be doing this next month, Firecat First Friday. I don't have the topic yet, but watch us on our website, on Twitter, on Zoom, not Zoom, Facebook and LinkedIn. So I will be happy to send an email. If you want to subscribe to Firecat email, we'll send you out a notice. Really appreciate you guys joining us today.
Let's do high fives.
All right, you guys have a good day today.